Hey guys, and welcome to season 4 of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we get to remember and reminisce back in time with some of our guests like...
Hey, we are Entity,
and you're listening to
the Us People podcast
with Savia Rocks.
Peace, my name is Oni. I'm a producer-engineer from Queens, New York.
Hi, my name is James Green. I'm a TV presenter, sports reporter and journalist.
Hi, this is Joy Langley, and I'm the author of Navigating Stress.
Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
We highlight the strengths of our cultures, talking about diversity and inclusion, and speaking out loud and proud about who we are.
I was never that good. I was determined. I had a love for the sport, and that always fueled me.
At 49, I was seven years post-divorce after 22 years and 3 kids of a marriage. And so I knew that I needed to figure out what was happening for me and why was this such a severe sort of crack in my identity and how I showed up in the world.
It's great. I'm glad, because I'll be honest, I didn't really work that hard at uni, so it was good to leave uni and really get on it, really because I also, as a person, I think I value productivity. A lot of people live to work. I think I am one of the work to live guys, but because my work is amazing, that's all right with me. So as a person, I go to bed happy when I've had a productive day.
We've also saved the best till last by honouring another artist and showcasing their talent as our new theme song, with none other than your host, Savia Rocks, featuring in their song. So guys, enjoy, stay creative, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Let's go.
Hey everyone, my name is Pablo Vazquez, and I'm a scholar and teacher, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I am abundantly humbled to have the beautiful Pablo here with me. He is an author, translator, game writer, and lecturer. Pablo, I want to thank you so much, first of all, for your patience and your calmness, and definitely for your time on coming on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very grateful and happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, you're more than welcome. So my first question for you, Pablo, which I absolutely love to ask all of my guests that come on the show, is could you tell us about yourself, of where you grew up and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in the Caribbean, Afro-Latin, and my family background is all over the place. And so I grew up in a mixed, culturally, religiously, and everything sort of household. And that further exacerbated when I was around 10 and my family moved to the States. And so I was exposed, even more cultures and everything like that. And I had the great blessing of having parents that would encourage me to explore further, to ask questions, to, seek out knowledge and everything like that. So it was definitely lovely to have that. And, they always taught me to come to my own conclusions, do my own research, everything like that. And so, that encouraged me definitely later on to go into university study and everything like that. I grew up Catholic for the most part, though my house, like I mentioned, multi-religious. My dad was a Santero, so he was a practitioner of Santeria, and my mother, fairly folk Catholic in that sort of sense. And so I kind of grew up wanting to be a priest, funny enough.
Wow.
Yeah. And then obviously that didn't work out. And I ended up exploring various different religions, and eventually ended up developing, one, a fairly multi-religious point of view, and two, settling in my what I label like my spiritual apartment within Zoroastrianism, where I also went to SOAS, University of London, to get my degree there, and concentrate on Zoroastrianism, and then was able to translate the Sacred Gathas of Zarathustra in the Old Avestan canon during the quarantines of the pandemic. And now I'm here.
I love that. You told me so much just in one question as it is already. I want to ask, what happened to you not becoming a priest? Because I would love to see you as a priest. And you guys can't see Pablo, but I can, right? And he has a very authentic look, which is unique. And I would have loved to see you as a priest. What happened? Did something happen somewhere down the line where you decided not to become a priest, or was there something that educated you not to become a priest and turn the other way? What was it that made you not go in that direction anymore?
Well, especially, I had my disagreements with the Catholic Church growing up, and that was one of the main reasons. I mean, anyone...
I've heard that before.
For sure. I mean, it was a mixture of theology, the sort of corruption that everyone sees on the news, stuff like that, the abuses and everything. But mostly, honestly, the theology, it just didn't jive with me in the right way after a while. Once I really started studying it in the seminary and, really getting into it. And I remember one moment where I went to confession, and the priest, I was telling him, I was just like, look, Father, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I believe. Plus, celibacy is a hell of a thing. And, he was just like, well, God needs more good people than needs bad priests. He's like, go out into the world, be good out there. And that's when I was just like, well, it felt like a permission almost. And so I went out and instead started exploring various things. And, that priestly calling has never really left me. I just express it in different ways. I help, educate people. As I do with this book. Yeah. I give lectures. I even do spiritual counseling for folks every now and then. And even right now, I'm currently working within Zoroastrianism to help develop priestly training programs and everything like that. So it may be for me in the far future, perhaps. Yeah. But right now, I'm really settled in my sort of teaching life, I suppose. I much prefer this time to help spread knowledge and, enlightenment instead of, doing the rituals and the prayers for everyone.
Do you know what I find really nice about even just talking to you for a few minutes? I see that you don't force your opinion onto someone, which I'm sure you can understand this part. What I'm about to say is sometimes in a lot of religions, they kind of force themselves onto you to make you believe in a certain religion and to make you believe that their religion is superior. And I think that's why people run away from religion, because religion has a way of capturing people sometimes. Religion does a lot. Religion can also be, I don't know, please tell me your version or view of this, because I'm always willing to be open-minded and understand. Sometimes people feel like religion can be a form of control, and I would love to hear your opinion of what you think of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, religion can be suffocating. I mean, there's no lie about that, especially in the upper Western world where we live, with the history of what religion has done to a lot of people, and how it has justified crimes against humanity by, multiple times. And I think, we're all familiar sort of with Karl Marx saying that religion is the opiate of the masses. But people also forget what the rest of that sentence also included, that it's the sigh of the oppressed. And I always tell my most, vindictively against religion friends to travel to some of the poorest areas of the world and
Yes, I say that
and
too.
see the succor that people get from the spirit and sort of like from encounters with the divine. And sometimes it doesn't even have to involve a priest. Sometimes it's just like a neighborhood shrine, something your granny told you, you know, and that sort of thing. And to me, that's a more unfolded, better approach to religion than it is than what we've done historically. And if you look really historically on how religion has failed us, it's because every time it has melded itself with the state, you know, power corrupts. And the farther away religion is from power, the more vibrant, the more beautiful, the more liberatory it can be. And so I do think, I never blame anyone. I don't think that it's a righteous thing to go out and try to force people to believe the way you do. Because
Yes.
if your message is truly righteous, you know, people will just follow. They'll just practice. They'll do it. And so, you know, making people afraid with fire and brimstone is the least likely way to get yourself an honest believer.
That's true.
Yeah.
I hear you with that one. I definitely do. I want to dig deeper into who Pablo is. And I believe there is a lot to you. So my next question is, can you define yourself as a person? But also, who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, which this is going to be so good, has there ever been a time where you have looked in a mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to come back and be the person who you wanted to be, even when you felt like you couldn't recognize yourself in a mirror or you were in a dark space?
Yeah, definitely. You know, there have been various points in my life, you know, like a lot of people on the planet, you know, I have to also deal with the sort of shackles and horrors of life sometimes. You know, just existing can be mentally traumatizing at moments.
That's true.
And not to count all the events in the world, the propensity for folks whose ancestors have had to deal with even worse things, you know, how we inherit that as well. And so, you know, there were moments in which I doubted every bit of myself when it came to not just my religion, like who I am as a person, you know, my blackness, my identity, all sorts of things, like what nation do I truly belong in? And it's been a process for sure. And, you know, there have been times I've looked into a mirror and I've been different people or just completely did not recognize myself. But over time, it's that sort of reflection, that thinking. And it's through using tools, and, you know, anyone can do these even as a non-religious person. It's using these sort of tools of reflection, meditation, you know, taking time out of your day to really think about how you connect to everything, not just your neighbor, not just your household, not just your country, you know, your skin folk or anything like that, but rather to everything. And I think it's a useful practice because it really centers you. It really helps you realize, you know, what you truly believe, like who you really are. And, you know, I am glad to look at myself in the mirror these days. And of course, like everyone, I have my off days, but, you know, and be proud of what I see, which is, I always joke that, if I had the choice of walking, you know, at my graduation ceremony with any music I would put Young, Gifted, and Black. And that's, you know, just to sort of like mark down that, like, this is who I am. Like, I'm comfortable with this now. And especially living in an insanely racist country like the United States, it's been a struggle. But, like, I'm glad that I see someone in the mirror who cares, not just about myself, but for others and other things, and, you know, even things we don't consider to be living. I'm glad to see someone who wants to educate people. You know, I'm glad to see someone who wants to experience the world. I love to travel, and I think it's healthy. and holistic for the soul to be able to experience others' cultures and people and see the vast history of our united struggle and everything, you know? But yeah, that's how I would answer that for sure.
I love that. Thank you so much. So let's talk about values, living your dream in your life, but also how you feel, because you're always helping people. How do you feel that you lead people to victory in the way that you educate them?
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power. And it's, to me, it's when you're undereducated and illiterate, and I've seen what it can do to people. I mean, I come from a part of the world that's usually been disregarded as like the third world. And this is because purposely, you know, the empires of the planet have tried to, you know, make sure segments of the population are uneducated, easy to manipulate, and that sort of thing. And so I've seen people transform completely, you know, from hateful, spiteful people to loving, caring, enlightened people just simply from learning. And like an example I like to use is, you know, I have friends who used to be, you know, they're former neo-Nazis. And the transformation that came about them is not just through knowing me and my education, but also because other people went out and took the effort, like the apostles and prophets of old, to reach out to these people and, you know, tell them the truth of things. Because a lot of the time people are so bound up, especially in today's world, with a whole bunch of like false information and misinformation, that sometimes all it takes is for someone to sit them down and be like, brother, sister, sibling, what have you, this is what's actually up. You know, let's talk about this. Or, you know, from doing interviews like these, doing my lectures, translating old texts and everything, I like to show people also, like, one of the reasons I translated this, you know, like 4,000-year-old text is because sometimes we don't pay attention to knowledge that came before us and what it could still teach us nowadays. And so that leads us to depend on all the talking heads on the news, on YouTube, or what have you, instead of coming to our own conclusions like our ancestors did. And so that's, to me, a huge part of my ethics and my morality system is seek knowledge wherever one can find it, which is also one of the things that Zarathushtra says in these very gathas, in these ancient poems, to seek knowledge wherever one can find it, but also to spread that knowledge once I find it, you know? And my friends always joke that whether it's at a lecture or, you know, at the pub, I'm always trying to like give new tidbits of information, whether it's useless trivia or, you know, something that will change people. I like it.
I like it too. It sounds cool to me. So, Pablo, what is a day like in your life from when you wake up in the morning to when you rise, or even if you meditate, or if you just open your eyes and say thank you to the world? What is a day like in Pablo's life from the morning to when you maybe start educating somebody and throughout your day? What's a day like in Pablo's life?
Well, you know, it's I jokingly say that I try to not be as beholden as possible to the productivity grind, even on days when I have to work. So when I wake up and, you know, I don't immediately jump out, I'm a proud late sleeper. I think that this is healthy. I think it's good to, you know, get up whenever you actually do feel like getting up. And some days people just can't get out of the bed, and that's fine. But what I do in those mornings is I try to catch up with the news. I'm very grateful, of course, you know, say my little prayers in there. But also my morning ritual, whenever I can definitely drive myself to it, is to take a nice long hot shower, you know, put on some new clothes, get into my study here, center myself with a little bit of meditation, maybe read a little bit, and then get to work on whatever needs to be done for the day. But in those moments where I feel myself too stressed, I step back, breathe, meditate, think, let my mind wander, which I think too many people have been told not to daydream, and I think it's an important action in day-to-day life.
I think so.
Yeah. And also, I like to check up on the people I care about, because sometimes the most exciting news you can get isn't in Ukraine or, what China's up to or what have you. It's, what your friends are up to, what your loved ones, your family, and etc. So that's, I try to definitely maintain communication, because I think it's a healthy and beautiful thing to do.
See, I love that. I totally love that. So let's talk more about, let's get into your book, okay? Now, I've read really, really thick books, and I've read really, really small books. Now, you can read a thick book and not be as educated, right? Because it's all about the words of wisdom that you put in your book for people to read. Now, when I had a chance to read this, I went in blind. Yeah, I went in completely blind. But when I came out, I felt educated. So my question for you, Pablo, is where was your mindset, first of all, when you decided to start writing this book? Because there is so much in there, and it's inspiring to see somebody write a book like this. Where was your mindset, and how did you even begin to start to say, I'm actually going to do this?
Yeah, it's funny, actually. I gotten back from London and my studies there after graduating in late 2019, and after that I was mostly like, well, I have all these projects in mind. They're all going to take like 10 plus years. Who has the time anymore?
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to do is definitely in the winter is to take a long vacation to sort of restart the imagination, freshen my mind and experience new things. And I went to Japan right before the pandemic hit. And it definitely enlivened my spirit, gave me all sorts of new ideas. And I came back and I was just like, well, some of these things are going to take forever, that's for sure. And with the pandemic hitting, we all got stuck in these quarantines at home. And one day I just woke up and I realized, wait a minute, there's going to be no other opportunity like this for me. What other opportunity will I be forced to do nothing, have no responsibilities? And I was very lucky in that regard. And that's when I started getting to work. So the mindset I was in was, I'm stuck here. The world is suffering. Might as well use this time to try to actually give something back to the world as best I can. So at first, I just did the translation, grabbed 25 plus different existing translations, see what they did wrong, studied ancient cultures.
Wow.
It was a whole process. Then I just released it to some folks on PDF, just passed it along friends, other academics, etc.
Yeah.
And they were just like, wow, this is actually good. You should publish this.
Yeah.
Anyone who creates anything is just sort of doubtful of what they've made. So I was just like, it doesn't seem like a big deal. A friend of mine connected me to a publisher, and eventually now the book's out online and in bookstores. And it's fascinating because the mindset was very much a sort of like, world's falling apart right now for a lot of people. Might as well put some wisdom out there so they can try to at least either distract themselves, educate themselves, or perhaps this might even enlighten them in the same way that when Zarathustra composed all these poems thousands of years ago, that's what he wanted to do in a time of chaos, wanted to just enlighten folks. So I thought I'd follow in those footsteps a little bit.
What is your favorite poem, if you don't mind me asking you?
Yeah, it's, let me see. I'm horrible when it comes to long memorization, but I definitely love The Mask of Anarchy by Percy Bysshe Shelley.
Okay.
Yeah, the we are many, they are few. And it's so inspirational, you know, awake like lions from your slumber. And it always, anytime I read the news, hear about some politician cocking something up for the entire population, or, you know, unelected officials suddenly becoming part of, you know, the rulership.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure British people can relate to that too often. But I think of that poem. I read that poem, and nothing sort of brings me more hope than that. Just simply because it's a sort of... I constantly say, you know, these old poems, these old stories, these old lessons, they have a certain hope in them for our times and later on.
Yes.
That we can choose to live up to. But we will also be the ones giving hope to people 200, 300, 3,000 years from now. So it's comforting to think that, you know, 200 years ago, Percy Shelley was also out there mad at the world, trying to figure it all out, and decided to just sit down and write something inspiring because it was the best he could do. And to this day, I mean, it's inspired not just me, it's inspired actual guerrilla revolutionaries, it's inspired poets, it's inspired actors, leaders of nations, of religions, and so forth. And I think that's lovely and says a lot as to the power of hope and the imagination, you know?
That's a question for me to actually ask you, is when did you realize that words were powerful enough to embrace a nation? Because everybody has a different definition of what words can do. But it's not just about writing the words, it's how we as people say those words out to people. But when did you realize that words had an inflicting power that could change a person's mindset and hope and inspiration for them to be who they wanted to be, or even for you to be who you wanted to be?
Yeah, it's definitely three things. Like, one, when I was growing up in Panama, I come from 5 generations of socialists, which is rare in the upper Western world, but not so rare where I come from. And I was always being inspired by sort of the words of revolutionaries and stuff like that. But it really clicked for me when I was young, seeing sort of a reflection of the major events that happened when I was young, one of them being the Panama invasion by the U.S.
Yes.
I was only about a year old when that was all happening. And definitely, I heard all the stories, and not just from my family, but also would see like news reports, documentaries, and everything. And it was interesting noting how the words of these old men in power were able to change and sometimes end the lives of thousands,
Yep.
And it was then when I realized I was just like, words have power. What people say, even if it's just some saber rattling and everything like that, could really mess up someone's day or life for a long while. But then later on, it was definitely sort of reading and hearing the Bible and other holy texts in my early life. That's when I first got my sort of love of ancient wisdom, where it was sort of like, I'm seeing these words, I'm reading these words, but they weren't written by anyone alive, They weren't written by anyone we know, but we still know them, we still feel them, and we still learn. And I like the way Napoleon, the great emperor and conqueror, once put it, which was, he said he had thousands of men willing to go out and conquer the world for him and to die for him.
True.
But anyone who had read the Bible was willing to die, not for state, not for country, not for an emperor, but for the love of Jesus. And I thought that was very fascinating, because that's like the power of the word right there.
Yeah.
And I may not be a Christian anymore, but I respect that so heavily, because it's so fascinating. And it's true. It's a sort of one man built an empire based on love your neighbor, that near 1 billion people follow to this day. They may have forgotten the message, but they still know the words here and there. And
that's true.
Third off, it was the power of media, where not just
that is powerful.
Not just people talking, whether it be talking heads on the news, a podcast, or a speech, or anything like that, but also sort of movies, television, video games, etc., and how dialogue that people have written could be heavily influential. I mean, I think about how all it took was some impactful quotes and some images for everyone to start wearing the Guy Fawkes mask at protests after V for Vendetta.
Yep.
Or how two very different political movements use imagery and quotes from The Matrix. And I thought that's also gave me a love of cinema, because it was this sort of medium that reflects people's dreams and ideas and desires back to them. So, sometimes when we watch a movie, we don't realize this, but all it takes is for some characters to say something that just hits us right at the right spot, and we'll never forget it. And I think that's absolutely brilliant and fascinating for sure. And it had a huge influence on me in respecting the word, basically.
I think when that happens, especially when you're saying in the cinema, we all go through something in our life that is different. And I think through everything that we've been through, you are correct. All it takes is the right sentence or the right word to trigger something inside us that makes I was actually thinking about that. But there's always something that can bring all of us together. So that's definitely, I would love to ask you, if there was no religion in the world, like you take away religion from all of us and it did not exist, how do you believe the world would be right now?
Well, it's funny because it's hard to imagine in some ways, mostly because I'm a firm believer that if someone, or especially a group of people, can imagine something, they can make it real. It's one of our birthrights, our powers as conscious beings, that we can basically grab the ineffable, the imaginal, and just turn it into something physical, real, tangible, even if it's just like an idea. I mean, I think about this when people say terms like communism, capitalism, democracy, monarchism, and it's none of these things are tangible. They exist because we believe. And in the same way, even if there was no such thing as organized religion, no hierarchical religion, no, say, Vatican in Rome, no Al-Azhar in Cairo, no Dalai Lama, none of that, people would still believe. People would still remember the heroes of their neighborhood. And it's funny, I was once in a debate with a great friend of mine who's, what I label a very devout atheist. He was saying, well, he asked me the same question: what would the world be like tomorrow if we were able to get rid of all organized religion? And it's just like, well, ask the people 5,000 years ago when they started religion in the first place, because I don't think it's a process we can ever get rid of. I hear a lot of people who are just like, oh, we're moving towards a non-religious world. And then I remind them, that's just the upper Western world, And even in that case, that's not the entirety of the upper Western world. When at last counts, 98% of the planet still believed in something metaphysical, supernatural, what people in ivory towers, academic settings would consider sometimes irrational. You can't ignore or truly get away from religion. Even in places where it's gone away, it comes back. I mean, one of the classic examples is the Soviet Union.
Oh boy, yeah.
Where there was an entire population of people who were just like, I'm an atheist, a proud atheist, my children were raised as atheists. Soviet Union falls, within 10 years, the entire population becomes Orthodox again. And I always scoff when people are just like, well, religion's not rational. Well, there was this great interview recently that was turned into a book, Faith, Hope, and Carnage by Nick Cave, the great performer of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And he was asked as just like, well, why do you believe in religion? Why do you think something so irrational? And he says, well, why does something need to be rational for it to be good? If all the scientific studies state that people who believe in something live longer, have happier lives, that communities are brought together by religion, families which have absolutely nothing in common still gather around the dinner table and pray, that shows to something that perhaps it's truly irrational to try to label something irrational like that. Like, what's more rational than living a healthy life like that? But yeah, to sum it up, it's you can get rid of religion, but it's just going to swing right back. And so I think we would be healthier, more loving, more able to see the blessings of the world if organized religion were given a reset button.
Yeah.
Perhaps we would learn not to engage it with power, with corruption and everything like that. But all it would take would be our descendants to bring religion right back, but hopefully learn from our mistakes, you know?
That's true. And I think another thing is if you strip away, when you talk about power, I think if you strip away the ego and the pride of things, you can change a lot. Because the most powerful thing is having love within anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my opinion on it.
I agree.
It doesn't mean I'm always correct, because obviously everyone's going to have theirs, but love is a very, very powerful source within all of us. Sometimes it just takes the right person to have the patience to pull it out of us and show that we have it too.
Exactly.
So that's definitely something that I've always had and carried with me. So I believe we all have an activist inside of us.
True.
Regardless of what we are fighting for or what we want to become better in the world or within us. What do you believe your activism is? And how do you believe you bring it forth into the world with culture and diversity?
Yes. The activist in me has always been an educator. I mean, it really just goes back to that. Yeah. I mean, one of my older friends once put it right when I was in my early 20s and asked me, and I was worried. I was just like, oh, what kind of job do I want? That sort of thing, confused young person. And, I remember he said, don't think about it that way. Think about what sets your heart on fire.
Yes.
I've noticed that every time I'm helping someone learn something where it just clicks for someone, or it even clicks for me, because I love learning as much as I love teaching. My heart is definitely on fire at those moments. And I love sharing that knowledge. And so the activist in me definitely believes that an educated population is armed with far more than guns when they're educated. Something That's far more powerful. And it's something that can never be taken away from them once they have it. Me and my friends joke sometimes in grad school that, God, wish we were stupid again, right? Wish we just head empty, no thoughts, just was doing absolutely nothing. And but the thing is, you can't turn back the clock. You can't go back. And that's one of the lessons you learn the more you become educated and you help educate others. And I think that's a good thing, because sometimes we get caught up in stagnation, and all it takes is learning something new to jostle that for you. And so my activist is out there throwing truth bombs, basically.
I like that, truth bombs. I might have to use that one. That sounds good to me. So when was the last time that Pablo himself felt totally at peace with himself?
Let me see. It happens every now and then. I like to reflect back on D.T. Suzuki, the great Zen master, who once said that, there are some days in which we're totally enlightened, and sometimes it only lasts for the span of dinner. And
that's true.
I definitely would say that I live a life like that. But the last time in which I was definitely fully at peace with myself and sort of in a state of constant bliss was definitely, and it happens, I feel, almost every time I travel, especially with a loved one, because it's not just having new experiences, but sharing experiences with a loved one. It is beautiful. And my friends always joke that I'm very thrifty, that I don't go out too much, I don't go out to drink too much, I don't go out to party too much anymore. But that's just because I save my money to go out and enjoy life in other places sometimes.
Better places.
And like, not to diss my own hometown or anything like that, but it's a sort of sometimes getting out of your comfort zone, you know, will align you with the right thoughts, the right thinking, the right energy and everything. And I think travel, especially with a loved one, brings me bliss and keeps me in that blissful state for sure.
I love that. I totally love that. What is the best advice you have ever received from someone, and how has it helped you move forward in your life on a constant basis?
I would say, besides the priest earlier that I mentioned, who said, God needs more good people than he needs bad priests. I've always kept that in mind to try to be a virtuous person, but also it was first time actually reading the Gathas, the text that I translated, that I read it, and it was one of those moments that, you see in a movie montage where someone's like flipping the pages, and it's just like, wow, oh my God, sort of deal. And I definitely had one of those moments reading that, but chock full of advice, but part of it is just be virtuous, be good, to be virtuous and be good. Like, don't worry about the supposed evils of your neighbor or anything like that, because even Zarathushtra, a man who wandered the deserts 4,000 years ago, was out there telling people, yes, that person is unvirtuous, they're not a good person, they're evil. And you got to fight against that oppression that they bring, that evil that they spread, but at the same time, look forward to the day that you can call them your friend.
That's true.
And it was one of those moments when I thought to myself, we shouldn't be living in a world where we're competing with each other, where we're constantly trying to step on each other. And it was reading these sorts of things in the Gathas that got me to thinking more and more and more. And already, it was those thoughts that already existed in the back of my head, but it was a sort of like, I should be working towards this sort of world in whatever way I can. Yeah. I should be trying to build a world in which truly I can call even the worst person imaginable, truly without any hint of reservation, my friend,
Yeah.
For sure.
I love that. I know that we spoke about music a little bit earlier, and you did give me a track, but I would love to, I might not be the same track that you give me, but I would love to know if there was one song that was the soundtrack of your life, what song would you choose and why would you choose that particular song?
Oh, it's so funny because I was even trying to remember, what song did I send? Because like every couple of weeks, I love music. I mean, it's right next to me, there's a vinyl player, a cassette player, a CD player. Yeah. And I love just sitting down, being able to listen and really dig into a lot of music. But I would say the song I would choose now that sort of has kind of always been there and sort of connected me in this sort of sense ties back to another quick story I'll tell. Is I was visiting San Francisco as a jazz fan. One of my friends there was just like, oh, you need to go check out the Church of St. John Coltrane. And I was just like, I don't even know what this is, but I'm in. And I was sitting there. They do consider John Coltrane like a saint. And they have these services that they call sonic exorcism, sonic liturgies. And they invite anyone to come up and play. So basically, there is a moment in which the pastor comes up and gives a nice little sermon. But most of the ceremony is going through John Coltrane's musical repertoire. And there's people who traveled from all over the world to be there, like Swiss musicians who showed up only to be there and to perform so that they could uplift everyone's spirit along with themselves. And the whole idea is everyone builds up to this point, whether you're up there free performing jazz or you're just swaying to the music, letting it carry you away to like higher realms. But it builds up to this point where everyone mantra chants a love supreme with the music. And I definitely have turned it into my own mantra as well. And I think a love supreme, that entirety, those 4 or 5 parts, I can't remember, of that song are some of the most beautiful, perfect compositions I've ever heard. And also knowing that it came from someone that, for the same reason I translated this text, also produced the music. It was for the greater glory of something higher and also to lift everyone else up. I think that's beautiful. And so every time I listen to that song, it's always inspirational for me. It moves my soul, my mind, my body. It's just excellent in every sort of way.
I can just see the passion when you were talking there. And that means a lot. When someone loves something or it means something to someone, when you see that, like you say, that fire and excitement for what they're doing. I only have 2 more for you, Pablo. And my second to last question is, when you feel, and only when you feel like you have done enough in the world, what would you like your legacy to be?
Let me see. When I was younger, I was really obsessed with being remembered and having like statues built of me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if I'm remembered for anything, it's not just for my work, not just for my insights in academia and religion, but I want to be remembered as, a compassionate and caring person that like gave something back to the world. And, it's a sort of thing of like, I don't really expect anything back whenever I do any of these sort of things. I mean, publishing is not a world for anyone that wants to get rich. Like, you're not going to get wealthy from translating a 4,000-year-old text. I can definitely tell you that.
I commend you for it though, because that is extremely time consuming, but also you have to have a very, very high patience level in order for you to do that.
Yeah. No. It's true. And I am proud of my patience. I won't deny that. It's something I cultivated over time. But when it comes to remembrance, I guess I want the same thing that possibly my ancestors wanted, which is sort of, I want anyone who remembers me to have a happy life and a better life because of what I've done and what I've given to the world. Yeah.
I love that. I totally love that. And before I have the chance to say thank you to you for coming on the show, I would love for everyone to know where they can find you, where they can get educated, or your social media platforms or any platforms that you would like to share. But most of all, more importantly, where they can find your book.
You can find the Sacred Gathas of Zarathustra in the Old Vestan canon in most online booksellers, Amazon, IndieBound, or what have you, Book Depository.
Yes.
There's various different alternatives if you don't prefer getting your stuff from one or another. Just type in Sacred Gathas and you should be fine. But also for your listeners that are in the UK, it should be available at Waterstones or at Watkins in London. Yeah. And in the US, it should be available physically in Barnes & Nobles and the like. So it's available in various places, and you can find me online, and you can reach me. I love answering emails, talking with folks about anything on my info site for not just the book, but also my Zoroastrian teaching and also research, academic research and whatnot on Mazdayasni.com. That's Mazdayasni.com. And Mazdayasni is an old, ancient Proto-Iranic term that literally means the worship of wisdom. And so Yeah, that was the original term for Zoroastrians that Zarathushtra gave to the community. So yeah, you can find me on there as a contact form. Some of my articles that I've written academically and non-academically are there. I have a podcast where I explore different elements of Zoroastrianism, usually for Zoroastrians. But I'll be sort of branching out a little bit soon, so definitely best place to keep in touch with any of my upcoming projects is definitely on that website.
Pablo, and thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Ask People podcast. You have been such a calm and patient guest, and I'm extremely humbled by it, so thank you so much.
Now, thank you for having me on, and thanks to all your listeners for listening to me talk, for sure.
No, definitely. I'm so humbled. Thank you so much, guys. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Ask People podcast. And please remember you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the Ask People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just typing in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
I need a solution. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
People say that having a peace of mind is trying to find a consistency of calmness within ourselves, to crave for a clarity that drives us through our emotional journey of life, to never let a person's judgment manifest into a fear inside of us, learning to believe in our ability to shine through the darkest moments and tunnels when we cannot see the light. Patience being our light for forgiveness and strength, to believe in our destiny. If you want real peace of mind, one needs to stop fighting their inner thoughts and embrace them with love, because love is the most amazing and beautiful strength that we have to conquer our peace of mind. Make your thoughts impact a nation by keeping them true and honest, especially to yourself, but make your peace of mind protect you when you don't have strength to embrace anything else. Find your peace of mind by listening to your heart.
You know, me and my friends joke sometimes in grad school that, God, wish we were stupid again, right? Like, wish we just head empty, no thoughts, just was doing absolutely nothing. And but the thing is, you can't turn back the clock. You can't go back. And that's one of the lessons you learn the more you become educated and you help educate others. And I think that's a good thing, because sometimes we get caught up in stagnation, and all it takes is learning something new to like jostle that for you. And so my activist is out there throwing truth bombs, basically.
I like that, truth bombs. I might have to use that one.